Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
The single best idea, it was a terrific Monday. Monday in July, you're really not focused. Like, you got to get to Tuesday to get the week started. Our team put together a great set of conversations to get you to your Tuesday so you could get your week started. Real high point. Elaine Ray joined us. She's a giant in European economics. It was a really good and thoughtful discussion on what she thinks Europe needs to do to get their act together. It was very academic, very highbrow, but that was wonderful. And then we had the lowbrow as well. Isabel Lee of Bloomberg News with a breaking story. The compendium of crypto at 118,000, Bitcoin rather, at 118,000, and whither from here. Wrapped around that was equities, bonds, currencies, and commodities, and special guests in from Hong Kong. I love saying this. With the Hong Kong and Shanghai Banking Corporation, HSBC, is their giant on semiconductor analysis. Here is Frank Lee of HSBC.
I think it is an issue that people talk about, but we haven't really seen that really materialize yet.
Right.
I do think the infrastructure build will continue. I think everybody recognizes the importance of AI right now and why it's so important to invest in. For example, if you look at sovereign AI right now, the announcements earlier in the year about Saudi Arabia going to invest this huge amount of investment. But there's also the question of are they ready yet?
Right.
Because they need to build the infrastructure in terms of the energy. But I think it will eventually. I think it will go hand in hand.
Really, really interesting, particularly, Frank, then the Pacific Rim on Taiwan and then over to mainland China is well, just absolutely fascinating. And again, we protect the copyright of our guest. His reports are jaw-dropping in their complexity. I threatened to actually read one and try to get through it on AI and almost on the physics and computation wrapped around artificial intelligence. There's no physics with Lori Calvasina. It's about studying the mood of the equity market with RBC Capital Markets. Lori Calvasina.
Well, what I'll tell you I'm seeing in my deck, Tom, and Tom, you and I have known each other a long time. I am sort of like anti-theme, anti-fad. Like I am never, sort of drinking the Kool-Aid on the next hot thing. But I've been calmed down a little bit on this AI theme because when I look at the top 10 mega cap names in the S&P 500, which are largely AI plays, and I do a median PE of those companies, and I compare it to the long-term growth expectations, and I take those two things, right, and I look at Mag 7 versus rest of the S&P, the relative PE line is the same line as the relative long-term earnings growth line. So they're getting different multiples, but it's based on the differing perceptions of what the long-term earnings growth rates are. And that's been very similar to what we tend to see over time. I think there was a breakdown in that relationship around the GFC briefly, but this is even how stocks behaved back in the 90s and early 2000s. So I think you've really got to tackle those long-term earnings growth expectations, and you've either got to just like bang down the Mag 7 trade and say their numbers are way too optimistic, or you've got to look at the rest of the market and say it's way too pessimistic and move those up. And we're just not seeing any change in that relative gap. So they're kind of each getting the relative PE they deserve.
Right. Bottle it. Lori Calvasina there with a wonderful discussion of piecing together your conviction about what the growth rate is, however you measure that, with a company and with an industry as well. It really gets back to the basics of security analysis. We're back to the basics here in mid-July, onward to that July 30 Fed meeting, and of course all of the geopolitics of the domestic Washington as well. We're out on Apple Music, on Spotify as well as where you find the podcasts, and on YouTube podcasts. This is Single Best Idea.